guys. So today we are here with Dan Hakker of Oade Armagnac. Funny enough is I've been trying to get Dan on here for a couple of weeks because he's been traveling a lot, promoting the brand, promoting the business. And we met from the Orlando Whiskey Society through Tim and Mike Buffa. So you guys have listened to the episode with / and those fine gentlemen over there with all that energy and all the shit that they have going on were gracious enough to invite me to the Orlando Whiskey Society, and where I met Dan, his wife, and found out about this very unique spirit called Armagnac. So welcome to the show, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. Like you said, it's been a little while in the making, a lot of messaging back and forth, but I'm excited that you're here.
Yeah, honestly,
I think we just got home 3-4 hours ago, so constantly on the road.
Bro, when you said, we just got back from, what was the island?
Amelia Island. So it's right outside of Jacksonville. So it was local travel for us this time, only about a 3-hour drive.
Only about a 3-hour drive. Only about a 3-hour drive.
No airplanes this time.
Oh, the airplane situation's wild. But yeah, you have been jet setting for the last for what? How long have you been with this brand?
So we just formally launched and started to have bottles that were actually available for sale a little over 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. But the brand's been, over 4 years in the making. So it was a lot of work, blood, sweat, and tears to get to this point. So once we launched, I wanted to go, full bore. And so we've been on the road between going to France and meeting with my producers and kind of making sure that they got the credit that they deserve for all the hard work they put into making the product that I bottled and brought in, but then just traveling around the U.S., meeting with a lot of friends, enthusiasts, groups, stores, just to kind of talk through the brand, educate them, and start to spread the good word.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm kind of jealous and not, because all that traveling for work could be exhausting, missing home. But we are jumping the shark a little bit. Yeah, don't mind me, I'm old, and I just made a reference that a lot of people don't understand. What is Armagnac for those at home who have never heard of this spirit? Because here we obviously speak about whiskey, eau de vie, gins, rums, but what is Armagnac?
Yep. So before I do that, why don't we pour something, have a sip?
Let's
is that
do
cool?
It. Yeah.
All right. So I have a couple of things that I pulled out because Armagnac is one of the world's oldest spirits. I have the opportunity to bottle some exceptionally old casks. So I brought a couple of fun ones, one that was distilled the year you were born and one that was distilled the year that I was born. So let's start with my birth year. Yeah. And then we'll make yours the finale.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really fun to be in this household, though, because I want a bar like this. Like, straight up. I'll pour it because I don't know. And also this glassware is gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, so the glassware comes from a brand called Lehman that is a French brand. So you'll see that interwoven into our brand is just continued celebration and kind of paying homage to France and to the producers, hence the name of our brand, Oade, which, I'm sure we'll get into it, but Oade is the way that it's pronounced, and it does mean the word Ode, O-D-E, but it's a blend of the word Ode and the word oak. So, the brand itself is an ode to all the producers and the people that help make this happen, as well as the oak that imparts all the flavor and the spirit.
That's gorgeous. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Cheers to your birth year.
Cheers to 1983.
Yeah.
So you asked a question, what is Armagnac? So I'll take a step back and kind of make what the simplest analogy could be for listeners who haven't had it before. So you think about larger categories of spirits, right? So you have whiskey, which is any spirit that is made of distilled grains. And then you have brandy, which is any spirit that's distilled of fruit. So within that brandy category, a subcategory is Armagnac. So Armagnac is distilled solely from grapes within the region of Gascony, or the Armagnac region, which is roughly, it's in southwest France, and it's roughly the size of a tenth of the state of New Jersey. So a small region, but mighty. They have over 500 producers of Armagnac in that region. And again, it's a grape-based distilled spirit that's then aged in toasted oak barrels.
Honestly, I've heard of spirits aged in Armagnac casks, and you were the first person to give me actual Armagnac. When we met up at / was the first time I actually had it just Armagnac, not something finished in an Armagnac cask. So it was surprising because I won't lie to you, I've had some spirits that were aged and finished in Armagnac, and it tasted like perfume. I think it was a rare character or something, and I normally love that brand, and maybe I just wasn't ready for that flavor. I even tried it with a couple friends, Chef Greg Ritchie from SoCo.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? He's like, no, Armagnac is way better than this. I'm like, okay, I'll keep an eye out. So I'm going to try your birth year.
Cheers, man.
Cheers. But tell us more about you traveling out there and how you left a tech job of 20 years to found this brand.
Yeah. And so, it was a fairly natural progression. So it wasn't as if I spent 20 years in tech and in telecom and then one day said, hey, you know what? There's this opportunity for me to make money in spirits. Starting an alcohol brand and a niche alcohol brand is absolutely the worst business plan to make money fast, right? I spent over a decade while I was, in my traditional job with my wife, just as an enthusiast for spirits, right? So we absolutely fell in love with bourbon and whiskey back around 2014, and then kind of fell into Armagnac, cognac, and other brandies around 2018. And so, when we go down the rabbit hole, we went really hard, and so we've we're very active members in Orlando Whiskey Society. We helped run it for several years. We've been traveling back and forth to Kentucky for years. We've probably been there, I would say, close to 50 times already, right? And we've done over 200 private barrel selections from different distilleries. You see the wall in the bar that we have is now overrun by distinctly barrel picks from Kentucky.
If it's overrun and you're trying to get rid of some, I could very much take one of those purple tops off your head. That's fine. I just try to help you out.
Yeah. So in 2018, we found Armagnac.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was kind of an interesting time within the bourbon community where it became more and more popular. So allocated bottles like your BTACs, like your Willets, like your Pappy Van Winkles, your birthday bourbons, we talked about that earlier, right? Like those are becoming more and more difficult to find and more expensive when you did have access to them. And the dusty bourbons, kind of your old Glut era bourbons from the 80s, 90s, 70s that people were finding on store shelves for pennies on the dollar or trading were pretty much extinct. So in order to get kind of the quality or the type of bourbon that we were really accustomed to back in 2014, 15, 16, even 17, it was getting harder and harder. And we hooked up with a group out of New York, and the name of that group was Beastmasters Club. And they did a private selection, a single barrel of Armagnac at the time. It was a 30-year Armagnac from 1988, which is the year that my wife was born. So as you see the trend, birth years with Armagnac are a lot of fun because you can't really do that with many other spirits. With bourbon, it doesn't exist. It would be like chewing on an oak save. And with Scotch, it'll cost you $10,000 if you want to get your birth year, right? So you really don't have that option, but you do in Armagnac. So we found the birth year bottle, we popped it, and we were like, this is like nothing we've ever had. It's incredible. But the closest thing that it reminded us of was that 80s, 90s Glut era dusty bourbon. And we were like, man, I just need to get more of this and I want to learn about it. Because at the time we knew nothing about it. So we started buying bottles, reaching out to importers, kind of doing research online. And over the course of, the next couple of years, we started buying full casks of Armagnac through importers as barrel picks, the same you do of like a Buffalo Trace or a Knob Creek or something like that. And we started kind of a subgroup on some of the social platforms that was national, and we would do the barrel picks. We'd work with retailers, and people would go and they'd buy them all over the country, and they'd buy those barrels. At that point, not a business, purely our passion. We found barrels we loved, and we wanted to share them with people. And then around the tail end of COVID, we started actually visiting France. So the first time we visited Gascony was the second eye-opening experience, right? The first one was when we tried it, but when we got there, it was a completely different world. So the pace that they live versus the pace that we live here was something that we completely fell in love with. In the United States, when you do a barrel pick in Kentucky, you go and they'll give you 3 or 4 samples, maybe 10 if it's 4 roses. They'll give you an hour, 90 minutes, say, okay, which one do you like? We'll see you off. When we went to a cellar in France, they literally said, we've got nothing to do today. We just want to spend time with you all. We want to learn why you guys are here and why you're interested in Armagnac. And we want to tell you our story, show you our property. And then you literally have carte blanche in the cellar to drink through all the casks they have. So for us, this was like a once in a lifetime experience. Instead of having it to choose from 3 or 4 pre-selected casks, they literally say, here's the cellar, here's what we have to offer. Let's take some time, let's hang out, let's drink some casks, and let's figure out one that you fall in love with. So that was the aha moment for me, that the access that we could have to this product versus the access you have to bourbon and whiskey is like no other.
I find it so interesting because one of the things that stood out, like you said, is the age statements. Like to get like a 20-year Armagnac versus a 20-year Pappy or something like that, that would be fighting a unicorn next to a rainbow in a pot of gold type of situation. And it's not that the value or the taste of it, because this is from your birth year. This is delicious. This is actually really freaking good. When you brought Armagnac to friends and everything, what was your response? Were they like, what is this? Especially coming from traditional whiskey and bourbon drinkers, were they hesitant or like, I just love my brown water from America? What was that like?
Yeah, so definitely a bit of that, right? And I think kind of both sides of what you told me, as somebody you just starting to learn about Armagnac and us kind of building a friendship, it's the same thing with every person I interact with, right? It's kind of like they see the age statement, and they understand it's an oak aged spirit, and they're like, this is crazy. 30, 40, we've got a bottle that's 50 years aged, right? A single cask aged for 50 years. Yeah, which is wild. And they're all at cask strength. So that speaks to them. But I think there's a natural inkling to kind of lean into what you know, even though I think consumers, enthusiasts, we always want to know what the next cool thing is, what the next rare thing is. However, we want to do it kind of within our lane, right? Like, I want to know what the next cool thing is in bourbon. And even when you have a bourbon drinker drink rye, it's kind of like a bit of a pivot, and it's a bit of an adjustment to get them to really get behind it. Mm-hmm. So to get them behind Armagnac, really what it takes is just getting to spend time and have drinks together like we're doing now, right? Like, I think just telling them, here, this is something old, it's aged in barrels, drink it. I think it's a tougher transition than, hey, let's spend an hour or two, have some drinks, and let me tell you some of the insane stories I have from 4 years going back and forth to France. Almost every person, after they have a couple of the pours, because the spirit speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. But then when you hear the stories, are like, okay, now I can get behind this. I'm interested. I want to try more.
That's that. Like, even honestly, one of the things that always stood out to me every time I've looked online at one of your bottles or anything, especially because each label that you do with another club or organization looks unique. It's specific to their brand, all that. It just stands out. It's for anyone who hasn't seen the bottle, we're going to put it obviously online, but the Oade, the name, the designs, gorgeous. You said Oade. You want to talk a little bit more about that and about what helped shape that design. Well, yeah. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So that's a great question, because if you look at most other Armagnac bottles on the market, they're very old looking, very traditional, and it's for a purpose, right? You even look at a lot of bourbon bottles, same thing, because they want to lean into the fact that there's a lot of history. Armagnac is literally the oldest, if not one of the oldest spirits in the world. It's over 700 years old. The majority of these small producers that we're buying casks from, they're the fourth or fifth generation of the person on the family, right? So there's a lot of history and tradition, and that usually shines through in the bottlings. So for us, in having over a decade of spending time in bourbon enthusiast groups, traveling through the US and traveling to other countries, I knew that we had to create a brand that would resonate with the American market if we're going to be selling in the American market. So we made a conscious decision to say, I want the label to stand out. I want to have the bright colors. My wife calls me Little Boy Blue. So blue is my color. Coincidence, right? All of our stuff is blue. But we wanted, a bright color that stands out. We wanted a modern look. And so it's something that's very unique. I will tell you, these labels need to be hand placed on every bottle. So these do not go on a bottling line. We have individuals at our bottling facility in France that hand label every single one of these and hand dip all of the wax.
Excuse me?
So it's incredibly time and labor intensive, but it is absolutely...
it's gorgeous. So obviously it's worth it, but what? I love the fact that that's attention to detail and care, right? You didn't want it to just throw it like, hey, whatever, just the cheapest way of doing it. You want it to be intentional.
100%.
And like even the dip, everything, I love the whole modern look of it. It's when you ended up making labels specifically to our other groups and stuff, groups and organizations, what goes into that? Like, especially because like you said, these are individually made, right? So,
So going back to coming from running enthusiast groups, knowing friends in hundreds of different enthusiast groups across the country, we knew that being customized and being unique is part of what makes these private selections special. So when a group, a liquor store, a bar, a restaurant is interested in having their own private selection of Oade, we wanted it to be something that stood out and was different from any other bottle on the market. So the idea, this was just incredible work this wasn't my idea, right? Graphic designer we work with, she did an incredible job of taking a look at, she created that label, which by the way, was kind of an add-on, right? She had, when we went through the rounds of creating the labels, kind of the second round when she paired back to the final 3 to 5 that we were going to kind of decide on, she said, hey, I got this crazy off-the-wall idea. I have a feeling that a label machine won't work for it, but I want to show you this. And that was when she showed this label, and immediately, like, my wife and I were like, that's it. That's incredible. We don't care how many hoops we have to jump through to put these on bottles, we'll do it. So the next phase was, okay, we know we're going to be doing private selections. How do we make these unique? And so the idea was, if you take that Oade symbol, right, the symbol that kind of defines and represents the brand, and match and marry that with what the private selectors want to tell of their story of the cask they selected. Yeah. Let's embed that within the Oade symbol.
Okay.
Put a blue filter on it so it kind of, still connects to the brand with our colors. Mm-hmm. And then voila, you have an Oade branded label that's still unique to each individual that selects their barrel.
So not only is it an ode to one of the oldest spirits ever, it's an ode to the organization.
That's right.
I love that, man. It is gorgeous. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was one of the things I noticed immediately when we met up at / to try it. And he was like, "You're polishing my bottles." I was like, "I'm gonna take a picture." Guys, I put my hand. I just grabbed the bottle. I was like, "I'm gonna clean this, take a photo." He's like, "What are you doing?" Thank you for letting me try it. By the way, what the hell is there, William LaRue? Well, we'll talk about that later. But it did. I think that it was such a brilliant take because it's simple and elegant. And I think, at least my thought on a lot of brands, I am a minimalist, but I do like customized something that feels unique to me. And one of the things when I was doing research is that not every bottle is the same. Like they're not always going to taste the exact same, especially with those age statements. So you get a very unique. What goes into making that custom selection and pick for these organizations?
Yeah. So before we launched, just a couple of months back, we spent 4 years going back and forth to France, roughly 10 times. And each time we would go, we would travel to between 10 and 15 cellars in France, different producers, and we would taste through their entire cellar. So on a given day, we would see 2 or 3 producers. We would roughly drink about 80 casks in a day. So I'll pause and tell you 80 casks in a day, but I will say we absolutely spit. We learned when we started going to France that is a critical survival tactic, dude. Like, we could not survive.
I was going to say, like, how would you have been able to walk? You shouldn't be alive right now, man.
We could not. So we did that. And so over the course of those 4 years, we tasted through over 100 cellars. So there's about 500 producers in France that make Armagnac. They're all very small. Or the majority of them are small. They have between 50 and 200 casks in total in their inventory. So their entire inventory is the equivalent of like an hour or two of production of Buffalo Trace. Like, that's it. Buffalo Trace making barrels for an hour or two. That's all of what an Armagnac producer has in their entire cellar.
That is scary.
Yeah. So they're so small, but it's fun because, to your point, every single producer, because there's no kind of mass manufacturing or production. Everyone produces their product a bit different, ages it. Their cellars are wildly different, whether they're humid, whether they're dry, whether they're high, whether they're low. So the aging is very different. The oak they use from the trees they use is different. So every producer has a different profile of flavor, and every cask within each producer is different. So we literally have to taste through thousands of casks to find the ones that we feel like are the best representation of each producer, and that we can then share with groups and with stores and with the public to say, this is the best representation of Armagnac for you to select.
I saw online something to the effect of the anti-consistency philosophy, where everything is specific and unique. That's awesome. I think that even more when we're talking about customization and having something that no one else has, there's an exclusivity to it, right? Especially if you're going to go out of your way to get, this is a bottle that represents my organization. You're not going to get anywhere else. Where if you walk into, I'm sorry, I'm not taking shots at anyone, but you go to like an ABC, it's like, oh, our barrel select. It was like a dude on a couch somewhere that did this. It wasn't really someone that works there that knows everything in the ins and outs. At least I'm less expecting of them to actually go out their way. Where this, you get to try it, you figure out the one you want, you find something that's unique to you, and that's only for your club.
Yeah, and that's 100%. We're never going to be a million case or even 100,000 case brand. That's not the plan. And we're not going to be on every store shelf. We're not going to be behind every back bar. We want to find the people that want to drink curious and that want to try rare, unique, special spirits, right? So because we do that, I think the advantage is this uniqueness of every cask, the rarity of every cask. The majority of these, the one that we're drinking right now, this 1983, there was only about 42 bottles left in the entire cask, and there is no more of this vintage. Mm-hmm. So this producer, Domaine de Cardenet, this is the last of the 1983 that I've bottled. There's only about 40 bottles left. Half of them are going over to Japan to some of the most special whiskey bars in the world. And this is kind of our ode to the special whiskey bars in Japan. We're sending some to Jack Rose. So this will not go out to even the public because there's such a small yield of it. This is going to basically some of the best whiskey bars in the world.
Sure you want me to have
honor
this?
them. So to that point, every cask is unique and every cask is genuinely rare, right? I think rarity gets thrown out a lot.
Yeah.
You go and you do a barrel pick at XYZ distillery, bourbon distillery, and there's literally 1,000 barrels lined up in a rickhouse
to say
that are
that
99% the same, but you selected one and that's special, right? This is a little bit different. You've got one barrel from one vintage from one producer. Once it's gone, it is gone.
I laugh at that because it is, well, it's again, not taking shots. They're not a sponsor, so it's fine. But when I go like, oh, it's a Total Wine single barrel pick for Total Wine Select of Eagle Rare. Like, it's probably the exact same of every other Eagle Rare. I don't really need yours. I don't want to pay more for yours. It's like, it doesn't really make sense. But when I see something like 5-star, shouts to Sam, shouts to 5-star, is it 5-star liquor?
Yeah, 5-star liquor.
No, I said it right. Because you looked at me, I was wrong. Shouts to 5-star, like that is actually select. People who actually go out there, they fly Orlando Whiskey Society, you, Tim, Mike, everyone from the organization. Why do I make it sound like I'm not part of the organization? Some of the founding members.
It's our crew, man. That's it.
Yeah, I'm a crewman. I just do the work.
People.
I'm around there. But you guys fly out there. You actually pick the stuff. You actually find something unique. And we trust you more than some corporate person. So with Armagnac and all these organizations that get to work with you, there has to be so much fun too for them. And to see their logo and not have it anywhere else, I kind of want one for no good reason.
And I'll tell you what, like our barrel selections, we give the groups or the retailers options, right? So we can send them samples if they choose that way, and we'll send them a handful of samples. They can taste through them. But there's always also the option to say, hey, let's get together in person, whether I come to them or they come to me, and let's make a real experience out of it. Because part of offering the private selections for us is trying to recreate the magic of going to Gascony and tasting in a cellar, right? Of not saying, hey, here's 3 or 4 samples, pick one, right? It's, hey, let's spend an entire evening together. Let's have an incredible meal together, and let's taste these things until you find the one that absolutely blows you away.
Okay. You said you had some, that's a lot of fun. I wish I was doing all that. You said you had some crazy traveling stories. It has to be kind of exhausting as well, right? You get to try all these things. You find out the heart really quickly. You can't drink as much as you want in France because you're going to die. Was there a moment where like, hey, this is like, I guess an over-the-top moment that stood out during your travels, something that was unique that you remember as always going to stick in your head?
Yes, I would say if we're talking about an individual moment, it was probably when we purchased our first casks that we actually decided, hey, we're throwing cash down, we're making a deal, we're doing this. And it was on the tail end of a 10-day trip. And there was myself, my wife, Robin, and our translator, who's a part of our business, Tio. So from day one, we found Tio. He was in his early 20s. Now he's almost 30 years old. He's been our translator. He's from the region, and he's just an incredible guy. And we're super pumped that we found him, and he's a big part of the business. So we had spent 10 days, a marathon trip, visiting 2 to 3 producers every single day, waking up around 7, 8 a.m. and not getting home till about 10 p.m. and drinking between 60 and 100 casks every single day.
Yeah.
And so we're on day 10. And at the time, one of the producers we had met earlier, it was the first time that anyone had ever visited them and kind of proposed a purchase like this. And the cellar master was an incredible guy. We found him, I literally found him through going on Google Maps and just sometimes I'll go in Google Maps.
Wait, you Googled the producer?
Oh, so these guys aren't easy to find, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them don't have digital footprint. So the way that we found a lot of the producers that we're visiting and that we're eventually working with is through hundreds of hours of recon work where I'm literally on the internet looking at Google Maps, and I will zoom into the area and start just scrolling through the map slowly. And most or all of these producers start with the word domain or the word chateau. So I will scroll, and when I find one, I will, double click on it and then just try and find their digital footprint. Do they have social media? Do they have a website? How can I find out about them? Are they still producing? And then I'll pivot to Tio and say, hey man, okay, pick up the phone, call them. Let's see if they're willing to take a meeting with us. And so this is kind of the behind the scenes work that goes into us creating this brand, because to visit 100 Armagnac producers, these guys don't just open their doors for everyone.
I was about to
this
say,
is
like,
not, this is not a business where they sell, bulk product or they sell large quantities. A lot of this is kind of family heirlooms where they sell a bottle here and there. So that was the work that goes in. So this specific producer hadn't sold in quite a long time. They were going through a lot of things, and we happened to get in. We sat down with the cellar master, spent an entire day drinking through his cellar, and we're like, this stuff is incredible. We definitely want to buy some of the casks. And he said, all right, well, the problem is we're not really selling anything right now, but let me talk, to the gentleman who kind of runs the operation now, and let me see if I can broker a meeting with you guys to discuss if there's an opportunity. So that was somewhere in the middle of our trip. Fast forward, we're on the day 10. Everyone is exhausted, tough problems to have. I still, every time I go to France,
for 10 days. Oh,
drinking ancient, incredible stuff all day, every day.
Me in France.
Unreal. But so everyone's exhausted.
Someone listening at home is like, oh, great problem. Such a tough life.
So we've got an early flight the next morning. I think the flight was 6 or 8 a.m. at the airport. That's 2 hours away. So, we're basically need to be up at like 3, 4 a.m. the next morning. My translator is telling us, hey man, I can't put another drop of Armagnac in my mouth. I'm going to be sick. Like I can't do this anymore.
We've been drinking
10 days in. Like this is too much. So we get a phone call from the cellar master, from the producer. It's Domaine Carpoulat. So we do some bottlings. Actually, the bottle that we're going to drink from your birth year is from Carpoulat.
Okay.
So he calls our translator and says, hey, I can get you guys to talk to the guy that's running the show here this afternoon at about 5, 6 p.m. If you can come in, we could talk to him and we could figure out if we're willing to do business with you guys. So we couldn't say no because it was our last day there, and I needed to see if there was an opportunity for us to make this happen because the stuff they have is incredible. So we hustle over there. It's about an hour from where we were. We get in the room, and this gentleman's sitting in front of us, and through my translator, he says, so I heard you want to buy some of our Armagnac. I'm like, yeah. Yes. And he said, okay, well, the cellar master has already given me the information of the casks you like. So let me try and figure out what we're going to do here. And so he proceeds to sit in front of us for about 30 minutes, handwriting all the details of each cask, what the proof is of the cask, what the price he wants to offer is on this like manual handwritten spreadsheet. In the meantime, my translator gets to the point where he literally says, I have to go to the bathroom because I need to throw up. So my translator has to like just say, hey, you got to fend for yourself because I just feel awful.
Because of all the drinking?
Just from, I think it's the travel too. And not to mention the food is incredibly rich in the Gascony region. So you eat about 80% duck while you're there. So duck is a big product in the region.
I did not know that.
Yes.
All right.
So a lot of eating, a lot of good sipping of Armagnac, and he just had enough. So he's in the bathroom trying to get himself together. The guy finally comes back, slides a sheet of paper over to us, says, okay, here you go. This is the price. So I look at the price. The price he was offering was outrageous. So I said, okay, hold on a minute. Again, awkward silence. I feel like I was in a mob movie, right? Him, the cellar master, there was another gentleman. They're all kind of standing over me.
Speaking languages you don't understand.
Yes. Like I don't understand what they're saying. And I'm just looking at the sheet trying to do math after 10 days of, drinking in Gascony and say, okay, it's kind of like a now or never here. I got this guy in front of me. If I want to buy the cast, if I want to go ahead and do this project, because this was 4 years ago, I said, okay, I got to pull the trigger and make it happen.
Yeah.
So, kind of write my counter offer down on the paper, hand it to him. He goes back in the back room with the cellar master, makes us sweat it out and wait, comes back out, and eventually says, okay, you've got a deal. Signs the random piece of paper, hands it to me, and says, okay, when you get back to the States, let's do business. So very memorable story on a lot of fronts.
It felt like you were in the mob. It felt like you signed away your life. It was like, you come to me in the day of my daughter's wedding type of situation, and your translator's gone. Oh, yeah, I would say
unbelievable story. So those were the first 8 casks that we ever bought for the brand. And ironically enough...
Are you sure you're not in the mob now?
The French mob, possibly.
Maybe. But those are the first 8 casks that stood out. And the fact that you navigated that negotiation without your translator is kind of dope. It's kind of awesome.
It's wild. Now that we've been going back and forth so much, it's pretty cool that I think we were talking off air about how important the relationships and the producers themselves are. Because I'm never going to tell anyone that I
create or make any of this product, right?
Oh, yeah,
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to celebrate the product, the story, and I'm trying to bring it to a broader audience in the US. And so, being able to be over there and experience all those stories is still something that every time we travel over there, it's a treat.
I love the fact that, it's an ode to those small families, something unique and everything. And you obviously translated that into how you do things with your family. The fact that you got your wife and everyone, obviously your child is also involved. They're going to probably carry this on after you. But your wife also being part of the business is probably really enjoyable, right? To have someone who's such a big part of your existence and that be a great partnership.
Yeah, 100%. So we, before this was a business, she was one of the few wives of the guys in the whiskey groups and in the enthusiast groups that was as into it as the guys. So she was always hanging around with the guys and one of the guys, which was like so much fun, such a treat that it was such a big part of my life, and we got to share it together, right? So we got to experience Kentucky for the first time together. We got to experience drinking Pappy together for the first time. Like all these things that as a spirits drinker, a whiskey drinker, you experience, I got to do it with my best friend and my partner, which is something that not everybody who's really into this thing can say.
Good. Now I'll get you a soundbite so you can send her.
Checks in the mail.
Checks in the mail. Yeah. I mean, we're looking around. The check's here. Listen, no, the same thing. I got to appreciate my fiance for that too. We went to Kentucky together. We've enjoyed spirits. There are things that she orders that people look at her like, she'll drink Rittenhouse when I love telling the story. She went girls' night. They went to a sushi pop in Oviedo. And everyone's like,
sushi pop.
Yeah, she loves it. They're like, oh, let me get a Cosmo, blah, blah. She looks at menus like, let me just get a double Rittenhouse neat.
Nice.
And the guy's like, do you know what you ordered? She's like, yeah. Can you just go pour the thing? Yes. And when the waiter walks away, her friends are like, what are you drinking? And they tried it. They're like, oh my God. She's like, I love this stuff. Like, I don't know what's wrong with y'all. Y'all wasting all this like great spirit and you're wasting your time because I'm going to get, this is more enjoyable to me than that sugary, crazy drinks. Mm-hmm. So I'm right there with you about having a partner that's going to be enthusiastic about those spirits.
Yeah, and it's cool when it translated to the business, right? Someday it's more stressful than it's worth because there is no separation between, friend, family, hobby, business now. But man,
your best friend, your business partner, and your significant other.
No doubt. But she's brilliant, and she is the person and the rock that keeps things together because I am running a million miles an hour all over the place. Mm-hmm. So for her to be able to ground me at times is certainly invaluable.
Yeah. And no one else wants you to win more than her, right?
No doubt.
So that's definitely...
She wants me to bring as much good booze as I can in the house. So yeah. She's got a vested interest.
That's a good problem to have. That's a good. I was like, it's never like you brought another bottle. She's like, ooh, what is that?
Dude, that's the biggest problem. I've always said this every time when we hang out with friends and people are like, oh, that's so dope. That's so cool that your wife is really into it. I'm like, yes, but the problem is for every one of your bottles, I've got 2 to 3 because I don't have a governor. Like she's not that one saying don't buy it. She's the one that's like, why'd you only buy 2? We should buy 5.
Oh my God.
It's wild.
That would be a hilarious problem. It's like, do you know how hard it is to find that? You didn't get 3? Like, what's wrong? Go back out there.
Yep.
You go back. But we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we'll pour up the next bottle and just kind of stretch our legs and all that, make sure everything's good.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, man. Hey guys, while you're listening to the show, we know that you might want to partake in some drinks with us and enjoy in the libations. Here at Bourbon and Bullshit, we ask that you drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive, avoid Amazon one-click buy, and for the love of God, do not text your ex. You do not need that kind of closure. They've moved on, so should you, Joseph. You should stop Facebook stalking. She knows. She knows. Now, all jokes aside, don't do anything dumb, take care of yourselves, and be safe. Thanks, guys. Now back to the show. Welcome back, everyone. We were talking about dogs and how the love that we give them is never enough.
Never enough.
Never enough. One of the things about my dog, like I will apologize profusely when people visit. It's like, I'm sorry that my dog is all over you, and everyone's like, don't you ever apologize about that. I want this dog to hug me and love me.
That's awesome.
I always feel bad, but dogs are awesome. Same thing when your wife let me see your dog, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry. No, I want to pet it. I want the dog.
Listen, I question anyone who doesn't like dogs.
I question anyone who doesn't like dogs, and I question anyone dogs don't like.
Fair.
If a dog is like, I'm like, I start looking at the person like, what did you do?
Dude, they're definitely the ultimate judge of character. That's super fair.
Yeah, it's like dogs are innocent. Dogs are great. And like I joke with my friends that I like dogs more than I like people because they are genuine in everything they do. There's no alternative motive. They want food, maybe they want snacks. They might beg, but they love you. Yeah, so definitely. Cheers to dogs. So we're gonna try this one for my birth year, 84.
This is
Tell
in
us about this one.
1984. Yeah. So this is Domaine Carpoulat. So this was from that producer I told you the story about that we purchased the cask from. So their cellar is incredibly dry. So it's distilled with Baco grapes, and then it's aged in toasted new oak for, this one is 84. This one is 40 years. So it's a 40-year-old cask. And because the cellar, because the cellar is exceptionally dry, these ones get a good amount of ABV on them. So this one is about 58% alcohol, so 116 proof. So at 40 years old, it's still got a lot of life in it.
This does not drink like something over 100 proof. I tasted it. It is good. Thank you for the bottle. I'm taking it home. No, I like.
That's my pleasure. Yeah, I think one of the things that I loved about the Armagnac, I said it reminded me of kind of glut era older bourbon. Yeah. And the reason for that is like that concentration of flavor that older whiskey has that a lot, I wouldn't say no newer whiskey, but a lot of new whiskey is kind of missing. And the Armagnacs have that like super dense concentration of flavor, like you said, that oftentimes at higher ABVs, you don't taste the alcohol because you just have so much richness and fat behind it.
Yeah, I think you brought up a great point about newer age or just new age spirits in general, right? There's so I was talking to Mike and a couple other people about where a lot of blenders now exist and everything's coming from NGP and everything almost tastes the same and everything because they have to, source because it's tough to get into an industry that needs 20 years of aging to get product from, right? Where this is gives you a very unique flavor, high ABV. It stands out amongst other brands. It's doing something that kind of flies under the radar. And I know that you talked about especially trying to keep it to people who are curious. Are there plans of kind of continuing to educate people who aren't as well versed in Armagnac?
Yeah, 100%. Part of the brand is absolutely education, right? Like I didn't go into this with the assumption that it was going to be easy.
Oh, no. Nothing worth doing is easy.
Yes. And there's a reason why there's very few generally importers and even less independent bottlers of Armagnac that are doing it at scale, even the scale that I'm doing it, which is still very small. It's because it is an under the radar spirit. It is a rare spirit. It is not largely produced. So to sell it at scale, to market it at scale, to educate people on it, it's a big lift. And that's why we talked about I've been on the road the majority of the last 8-10 weeks is because I'm spending the time tasting with people, sharing the bottles, and having people understand really where these things are coming from and why they're so special. And it's an uphill battle, right? But for me, it's a labor of love, and it's absolutely a battle worth fighting because every time you share a pour with somebody and they're like, you said, holy cow, like this is crazy. This is 40 years old. This is 57% alcohol. And this thing is just like an incredible fruit flavor bomb. Like, where has this been my whole life? It's like those moments that I live for.
Yeah, I love that you said it's a labor of love. We talked about the family aspect. We talked about kind of this history and story. A lot of those spirits that I do enjoy, it's because of the history, because of the passion behind it, because of every bit of love that you can feel in it. This feels very much, when you even said that when you went to visit them, they're like, hey, come, you're drinking with us all day. Like that shows intention. That shows like, hey, this is supposed to feel like a moment in your time. When you're sharing this pour, we talked about it off air as I was setting up and sweating a storm up, part of why I even do the show was because what's more important to me is building that memory and having that. Yeah, it could be like that core part of the memory and enjoying that spirit, but I'm going to remember this conversation. Yeah, I'm going to remember the spirit, but I'll remember this conversation here about your labor of love, the fact that your wife, your rock, everything like that you've had this partner, best friend. I'm going to remember everything else. And this makes that moment great. Way better than anything like Fireball. But I love that. When you took the leap, and it was probably pretty scary. Did you do it all at once? Was it slow and steady? When you said, I'm deciding to make a spirit brand,
Yeah.
Was it all or nothing?
No, it was kind of slow and steady, like you said. It was this gradual kind of momentum, right? It was the idea from the first trip. Because the first time we went, it wasn't to start a brand or do anything. It was we were going with somebody who was already importing the product to do a barrel selection for our group to share with people, right? So basically, it was kind of like the microcosm of what would become Oade, right? And we did it, and we had those experiences. We met the families that produced the product. We tasted, close to 100 casks probably that first trip, and we were like, we've just scratched the surface. Like, we thought we were deep. We're not even close. And I think that was the first step with the wheels turning. Like, okay, I'm driving down the street to visit 3 producers, right? And as I'm seeing these 3 producers on the street, along the street, as I go from producer to producer, I'm passing by another 20, 30, or 40 of them. So what are in all those cellars, right? Like, I'm thinking, okay, I know that there's these handful of guys that are already importing to the US, but what do all these other guys have? And that was kind of the beginning. And that was when I went home and started obsessing overnight and doing the research online and trying to find new producers and trying to schedule visits to just go see them. And even at that point, the year after, it wasn't necessarily, hey, I'm going to start this brand that I'm going to go on a road show and I'm really going to try and build something. It was, I just want to start to gauge like what's out there. Are there enough stories? Are there enough families? Is there enough product out there for me to be able to share with people in the US? And then after that second visit, it was pretty obvious, right? It was like, okay, yeah, I was like, okay, there's enough here. And so it was really like this gradual progression over the course of those 4 years, the first 2 being kind of the test bed, the dipping our toe in the water. And the last 2 years, once we said, okay, we're going to start a business, we're going to do this, to actually launch Oade.
That's had to have been frightening. That had to have been scary. But yes and no, right? You had a great support system.
It still doesn't feel real, right? It's still, everybody talks about imposter syndrome or about, like kind of living outside of your own body. And it's so interesting because I still think of it as, hey, I did this private selection, taste the bottle. And to see what we've done with the brand and getting the feedback, for people like you, Arthur, when you're like, hey, man, the label just stands out. It's beautiful. You did an incredible job with the brand, with the name. It's just still really special every time someone says that.
You're not great at taking compliments about it, huh? Because I'm the same way. I think when you're trying hard in something, when you care so much about something, it's hard to not find like, I could still do better. I could still do something different. It's like, it's not as good as I want it to be, or it's not where I want it to be yet. You're kind of always like trying for the next thing, like harder on yourself. Is that how you feel about it?
Without question, I'm my own worst critic, and I am far more afraid of failing than I am enthralled by succeeding. Right? Like,
yeah,
I think success is okay. On to the next one, and failure is this is going to devastate my life forever. Like that's it. But I think that's what drives you, right?
Yeah.
That's what drives me is, okay, I want this to be the best version that it could possibly be. And I want every single person, every single interaction, every single bottle I share to be like the perfect moment.
Are you sure you haven't listened to a bunch of our episodes? Actually, like we talked about that in an episode about just athletics. It's like I tend to be more driven by, I'm petty, but there's 3 things that drive me. The just never wanting, I don't want to fail. I'm more scared of failure than I am looking forward to success. It's not about like, I want to be the best possible. It's just, I don't want to do bad at something I said I want to do. And then the other thing I'm driven by is like, I want to outlive my enemies. So I want to, it's like, that's why it's petty. It's like another one's knocked off. I was like, yes. But that's a different episode. Mind your business. But I like that because you're never going to settle for less, but then that's where your SO is to probably tell you to enjoy what you've done so far.
She tries.
We don't listen.
To no avail yet, but
we are hard-headed as hell, us men. God damn it.
But the best moments are like when you're drinking, right? I said I just came from Amelia Island, and getting to spend time with that group, and again seeing, a few faces light up in the group, right? When you share at a group event, not every single person is going to fall in love with it, but if a handful of people in the group come to me afterwards and are like, dude, I've had Armagnac, but I haven't had this, or I've never had Armagnac, but this is like incredible. It makes it worthwhile because the whole intention behind spirits, and you say it with this podcast, is to create moments, to create relationships, to elevate things that are already special and make them more special. And that's, that's a big part of the intention of the brand.
I love that. That's exactly what it should be, especially even from the source of it, the family, the history, the tradition. It's going to be exactly what it should be. Oh, all right. So I know that we're getting around that time, but if you had to give your elevator pitch for someone who's never tried this spirit, what would it be? What put you on the spot?
You did.
Elevator pitch.
Well, the corny phrase, if you know, you know. I think if you know, it's special. But the elevator pitch is that it is the oldest spirit in existence, and it's also one of the most rare. And so if you love barrel-aged distilled spirits, and you want something that is truly unique, special, and rare, you have to at least give it a try.
That's perfect. You see, you just did fantastic with a little prep. Awesome, man. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to try these with you and to see this brand kind of come up and continue to support. What's next for you guys? What's next for the brand?
So we're going to continue to launch national single barrels online. So we've got two ways where you can get our products. The first is through our website at oadearmagnac.com, at our shop, which is shop.oadearmagnac.com. Our bottles are up for sale there, and we do drops sporadically. So stay tuned to our socials for that. And you can get the bottles there, and they're sent to and distributed to 47 states out of the 50. And then in addition to that, if you have a whiskey club, a store, a bar, a restaurant, or you're interested at all in doing your own private selection barrel of Oade Armagnacs, you could reach out to us directly via our website, via web link, or you can message us on Instagram. And we love doing these private selections because, again, the experience and the opportunity for someone to pick their own cask is incredible. So those are the two ways to get the bottles. And then where you could find us is oadearmagnac.com. You could also find us on socials, Facebook and Instagram, Oade Armagnac.
And for those who are local, you have some coming to some local places. Where can they find it?
Yeah. So in the Orlando market, we just dropped a single barrel for Central Florida, and that one will be at 5 Star Liquor. It will be at MDP Liquor. It will be at Packwoods. It will be Packwoods. It will be at the Courtesy starting January. I think the Courtesy is a little bit delayed, but it's going to be at the Courtesy starting January. The Ravenous Pig, and then it's also going to be at Cigars in the Avenue in Winter Park.
Beautiful. So people can try this spirit, especially
by the pour.
By the pour. That's going to be dope for a lot of people who are probably curious about this after.
Yeah. And those are 5 of our favorite places, other than obviously the 2 liquor stores are the 2 stores I frequent the most. But those are our favorite spots to go get pours or go get meals. So we're pumped that they're going to be on the bar.
Yep, me too. When you told me those, because all of them, we talked about it off air, all of the, I think you listed almost everyone that, Packwoods, Ravenous, and the Courtesy, they've been on the show. They're friends of the show, and we love and support what they do. So definitely awesome to know that they continue supporting local as well.
Yep.
Because if we don't help each other, who will?
It's an incredibly small community, and they're awesome people. So.
Yeah. But awesome, and we're going to close out. I know that the missus is probably going to come home soon, so I don't want to keep you out too late. But for anyone at home, make sure that you like and follow Dan and Oade, because I think, honestly, believe it or not, I'm not saying it because he's sitting here and we're on camera, but I really do appreciate the brand. I think it's delicious and it's worth trying, because you are right. This is something unlike anything else. There's going to be a lot of people who's like liquor's liquor or spirits are spirits. Like, this is not. This is something that you can't replicate, because 42 years aging is not something that the common person is going to be able to try and see the differences in spirits. And you see those age statements behind you. For anyone who can see it on camera, that is a wide array. There's a 20, 41, 36, 45, 42. Come on. Like, that's insane. But make sure, if everyone enjoys what we're doing here at the show, like, subscribe. Dan, thank you again for allowing me in your lovely bar. Because there's not even, this whole section of this house is a bar.
When we wrap, we got to have a couple more drinks. I think I got a couple of things for you.
Oh, okay. So, I'm not, guys, we're going to drink off air, but if you guys want to join us, you can. But like, subscribe, and continue to support the show. Make sure that you follow us, Last Call with Arthur, on IG, YouTube, on Patreon. If you like something that's uncut and unfiltered for a whole $0, you could get the unedited episodes of everything that we do, because some people like a little bit uncut and unfiltered with a lot more depth to our stories. And then just keep following us for the Spirit Schools, where we discuss unique spirits like Armagnac and their history, and giving you some tidbits and advice for those who are the newcomers to the spirits industry or just spirits in general, and you want to tell your friends that you know what the fuck you're talking about. This is the easiest way to do it. Well, thanks, guys. Drink responsibly, take care of yourselves, and make sure you stop in at those local establishments if you're Orlando local to try Oade in January, right, for most?
No. So they're all out now.
Wait, you said January's courtesy. Oh,
Courtesy's January.
They're all out right now.
Everybody else is now. Yep.
What the hell are we doing? Guys, go now. Don't stop listening to the show now that's over. Okay. Bye, guys. Hey, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Burn, Termite, and Pest Control. I first met Joe Byrne on Full Frontal Nerdity Show and decided to give his company a try. They have been the best pest service I've ever had. From flexible scheduling, attention to detail, fair pricing, and everything you love about a small business, I highly recommend Joe Byrne and Burn, Termite, and Pest Control. It's a family-owned and operated business with over 30 years of experience in termite and pest. You can reach Burn, Termite, and Pest Control at 321-297-7985. Once again, 321-297-7985. And let them know Bourbon and Bullshit sent you. Thanks, guys. See you next time.